Welcome to the Ugly Games YouTube channel. We're here today to talk TTRPGs. That's tabletop role-playing games for all of you who don't know, but I'm guessing if you're here, you probably know that already. If you're here watching this video, you're probably making your own TTRPG or thinking about making one, which, just gotta say up front, that's awesome. Whether you want to make something just for your friends or something to eventually sell to people, making a TTRPG is a deeply rewarding experience if you're able to stick it out. It is a long, sometimes difficult, often very difficult process, but once you get to that first playtest and your creation becomes real right in front of you, even though it'll have its issues, I'm guessing you'll probably be hooked. But that's neither here nor there. Today we're talking about the topic and the title. Where to start? You have an idea that you want to make this game system. Maybe you have a mechanic idea. Maybe you have an idea for a setting. But where do you start? In my opinion, you should first jot down all your ideas. Everything that gives you excitement for this project, I want you to put it in a Word document, in a notebook somewhere you have dedicated for this project. Write it all down. Then you need to put it aside and start looking at TTRPGs that exist. What you're looking for here is what you want your TTRPG to be like. Often we have a hard time imagining based off of something that doesn't exist. If I tell you to create a creature, if you're like me, you immediately get overwhelmed. You want one creature out of all the creatures that could exist. But if I show you a picture of an owl and a monkey and a shark, and then tell you to create a creature, you maybe have an easier time imagining something. You can base it off one of the animals I've shown you, or say, I know I don't want to make it able to breathe underwater like a shark. I know that because I see it, and I know I don't want it. Looking at TTRPGs is very similar. You'll begin to see things that you like, things that you don't, and you'll hopefully get a better idea for the kind of game that you want to bring into the world. But how do I get access to TTRPGs to look at them, you ask? I don't have money to buy tons of game systems just to see what I don't like. That's where the internet comes in. There are tons of TTRPG rulebooks available to read online for free. Games like D&D 5e, Traveler, Paranoia, Savage Worlds, Monster of the Week, Fate, the list goes on and on. The only problem is you have to kind of know where to look. But luckily for you, I've created an admittedly tiny list of game books to jump into. You'll find the links in the description of this video. It's a lot to jump into, but look at things like the core mechanics. Look at the dice used, the different kinds of classes, the battle system. See what works for you and what doesn't. Now, this isn't me telling you that you have free reign to copy other people's work, by the way. But it is me telling you that you should have no shame in basing a mechanic or a concept on another game's mechanic or concept. As long as you change it enough and make it your own, you're golden. Now, you'll actually notice that some of the games share simple mechanics like D&D's battle system, including an AC that you must reach in order to hit a creature. Concepts like AC are not owned by Wizards of the Coast and thus can be found in different games. The next thing is where the actual game writing comes in. Now, I can't tell you what system to start on in your game, but I can tell you one question that really helped me. What do you want people to do in your game? Do you want it to be a battle-heavy game? Maybe start on the battle system. You want it to be an exploration-heavy game? Figure out what they'll find in your world. Treasures, NPCs, etc. And if you want it to be a role-play-heavy game, find ways to incentivize role-playing in-game and start building those systems. As for me, I started with something that really interests me, the outcome mechanic. For purposes of this video, we'll be talking about the game that I'm deep into writing called Awakened. Having spent most of my adult gaming life playing D&D 3.5 and later 5e, I knew that I wanted to get away from the D&D D20 system. This is where I made my first mistake, though. I went all in on this mechanic that I was super excited about that was all about flipping a coin. The only problem is I never tested it. I got deep into designing the game before I ever sat down to actually test this flipping mechanic. Eventually we got around to test it and found it just didn't work for us. We wanted our game to be as fun as possible, and flipping a coin just wasn't as satisfying as rolling a die. So I had to go back and change everything that had to do with flipping a coin in the document. It was a mess. Eventually we landed on an all D6 system with a 3D6 outcome mechanic that we're really happy with. Now as you go, you'll eventually come up with questions like, if this is like this, then what is that? For example, if the outcome mechanic is 3d6 in my game, what is effectiveness, or the equivalent of D&D's advantage, in my game? We wrote that problem down and started coming up with ideas. We eventually ended up with them rolling 4d6 and choosing the highest 3. For ineffectiveness, you roll 4 dice and take the lowest 3. And that's overall how you begin to write your TTRPG. Have questions? Leave them in the comments, and they just might be the basis for my next video. I'll be back soon with more about the journey of writing your TTRPG. Stay tuned by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Stay ugly.